It's the day of the county fair. The year is 1933, and Orange County, New York is abuzz with anticipation. The small upstate county has heard the rumors. They've heard the scuttlebutt around town.
Oh, I love this already. I'm so excited.
Kesteloos Hardy Gardens has created the exhibit of a lifetime. When the people of the county walk through the fairgrounds on that beautiful spring day, they'll walk past the livestock and the quilts and the pies and so forth until they come to the piece de resistance of the fair. Thousands of rocks create intricate paths and circles through exotic plants that most people had never even heard of, let alone the name of. Beautiful greenery and bright petaled flowers brush the floor-length gowns of the women as they walk to the center of the exhibit, where a life-size bronze statue of a girl stands tall in the middle of a glittering pool of tropical fish, her head upturned to the bright blue sky. The people of the county ooh and ah at the beautiful display. But those oohs and ahs quickly turn to sharp gasp of surprise and fear when suddenly a tall plume of fire bursts from the mouth of the statue of the girl.
What?
After the shock subsides and the people clap excitedly, somewhere to the side of the crowd, an older man smiles with pride. I'm Karyn Harding, an amateur genealogist, and I've spent an embarrassing amount of time and money unlocking the stories of the people who had to exist for me to exist.
And I'm Kim McMasters, a millennial with no interest in history, having kids, or leaving a legacy of my own.
And you're listening to Low Ancestry. Each episode, I'll share one story from my family tree with Kim, proving that ordinary people like me, with ordinary ancestry like mine, have compelling and sometimes scandalous or heartbreaking stories buried within them. Welcome, Kim.
Welcome, Karyn.
And welcome to our very special guest, Kathleen Larsen.
Welcome me.
Welcome, Kathleen. Kathleen is one of our best friends. I feel like I should give you maybe more credit. You are many other things, but to me, that's very important. Kathleen is a visual artist as well. Kathleen is the mother of two of the cutest kittens I've ever seen.
Yeah, I birthed them from
Yeah.
my womb.
Yes, you did.
I think you also helped birth my dog and my cat.
Yeah.
And so did you, Kim. I think we all birthed my dog and my cat together.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. So we are co-parenting 4 animals, and truly has one of, I think, what will be one of our favorite stories on the pod.
I'm so
Today.
excited.
It's going to be really good. And also up top, we do have to give a big thank you to Mr. Rob Larsen.
Rob Larsen, the
Yeah.
man
Kathleen's
himself.
dad.
Yeah.
Because he helped me with filling in a lot of this story and telling like personal experiences of his. So that's a shout out up front.
Dad, love you.
Yeah. Love you, Rob. How did you get here to wanting to do this story? Is this a story that you knew?
I have no idea what you're talking
Okay,
about.
all right. Kathleen's going in
I mean,
blind.
obviously, I know the Kesteloos name.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's hard to forget. I know vaguely like the people that we're going to be talking about today,
Mm-hmm.
but I literally have no idea what it is that you are talking about.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually glad you asked that question, Kim, because I'm going to start by talking about a little bit about why I chose these people in particular to talk about. Kathleen, I don't know if you know this, but I like you a lot.
Oh, the feeling's
Shocker.
mutual.
You're one of my favorite people, and that's due to a lot of things, but it's also due in no small part to all the little things that make up you.
Man, Karyn.
Karyn, it's too soon.
I like you. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's the things that you like. It's the things you do. It's the people you cherish. And all of those things carry a sweetness to them that is uniquely you. And that's a little bit how I picture you, is like, there's these like very sweet things about you. And so my story today isn't going to focus on just one person. It's going to focus on 2 generations of one family in your tree. And then at the end, we'll talk about your grandma, who's the 3rd generation. But I chose to talk about this family because I've never seen a group of people more Kathleen coded than these guys.
Really?
Yeah.
So excited.
So the things that these people did, the things that they liked, the people that they cherished all reminded me of you, like all the way down the line.
So excited.
And it all carried that same unique sweetness that I equate with you.
Oh.
So today's story is an homage to the person that you are and a tip of the hat to the people who pass those traits down to you.
You're going to say, and a tip of the hat to me for writing it.
Yeah,
Yes,
great work,
because
Karyn.
canonically, I usually do that in these podcasts.
You do. You love to give yourself a tip.
That story starts with the birth of a man named Willem Peter Kesteloos in the Netherlands on February 28th, 1870. So leap year baby.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. So how old was he when he died?
Whoa, you really want to skip to the you want to skip to the good part?
No, I mean like because I don't know, like some leap year babies, they're like, oh, I'm only a year old after 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, I
yeah.
didn't do this math. I did write how old he was when he died. And when we get there, let's do the math.
Okay.
Oh
great.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll help.
Thank you.
Kathleen and Kim, would you like to know what else is going on in the world in 1870?
Yeah. This is my favorite
Let's
part.
do it.
All right. So first of all, construction begins on the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City,
Oh.
which I think is fun to say because we had an episode where we talked about the end of the construction
And the elephants.
and the elephants that walked across
They
it.
rode
Cool.
elephants across.
Yeah,
Okay.
but not in 1870. It just started. Also, Mitsubishi is established as a shipping company in Japan.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thomas Mundy Peterson becomes the first African-American man to vote in an American election after the passing of the 15th Amendment.
Wow.
The Tower subway under the Thames River becomes the first underground passenger railway in the world, but it does close permanently in November of the same year, so it starts and stops. Rome becomes the capital of a now unified Italy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
before it was its different
Yeah.
city-states.
Yeah.
And then I have two honorable mentions. Fireman's pole was invented in Chicago.
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
And Lennon is born.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's another big one. That's a big. This is a
Man.
big year.
Yeah.
It's a
really
big
Mitsubishi.
year.
Mitsubishi is an old company.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Remember in the last one we did, the Thanksgiving one, Kiko Man, the soy sauce company.
Oh, yeah.
It started in 1607, the very first company. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've actually, my TikTok feed is a lot of like soy sauce production videos.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when I talk about like the when I talk about you and the sweet things that make you you. Let's turn our eyes away from the hubbub of the world. And we turn to the tiny Dutch village of about 600 or 700 people. On a chilly February night, Willem Peter Kesteloos, your second great grandfather, is born in a place called St. Philip's Land.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
how is it spelled?
Saint is spelled S-I-N-T.
Oh, yes.
And then Philip's Land is just like it sounds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, like the Dutch language is so foreign to me.
Yeah.
I really don't understand it at all. I feel like it uses sounds that just don't compute with my brain.
You know,
Yeah.
ironically, English is in the same language family, and we're more closely related linguistically to Dutch and German than we are to French and Latin languages. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
think about that. Something to really sink your teeth into. This is in the province of Zeeland. Zeeland is a series of peninsulas and islands in the southwest of the Netherlands, bordering Belgium to the south, and more specifically, bordering West Flanders, which is the Flemish part of modern-day Belgium. We've mentioned before on Low Ancestry about how Belgium has a Dutch culture in the north known as like Flanders and Flemish. I only mention this because there was a time, long before Willem, when Zeeland was a contested piece of land between the Netherlands and Flanders. And Zeeland shared a lot in common with Flanders, like culturally and linguistically and stuff. So it's my belief that the Kesteloos are actually Flemish, possibly even coming from Flanders to Zeeland in like the 17th century. I
Okay.
cannot prove the connection,
Yeah.
but based on like migration patterns, I think that would be reasonable. And here's a couple other fun facts about the province of Zeeland.
Okay.
The Dutch province is spelled Z-E-E.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple.
Plain and simple. Also, Zeeland means sea land. So it's pretty straightforward.
Cute.
And then there's a fun fact in general about the name of Kesteloos itself.
Oh, great. I was hoping that you would say something about this.
It also happens to be the first sweet fact, the first Kathleen coded sweet fact about this family.
Are we going to have a sweet fact counter?
Yeah. Sweet fact number 1.
Sweet fact number 1.
Some historians believe that Kesteloos actually comes from 2 Dutch words, cursed and loot.
Wow.
Any guesses about the meaning of cursed or the meaning of loot?
Wait, cursed? C-U-R-S-E-D?
No, not cursed. Oh God, no. K-E-R-S-T.
Oh, I thought, okay.
What if I was like, this is a sweet fact, you're cursed?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
but I don't know, that could be fun too.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Loot would be easier,
loot?
I suppose, to guess.
So a loot as in like a loot that you...
That's a cute thought. No.
That's not right? Okay.
No.
Oh, that's what I thought too.
Okay. You
I
said
would
it would be easier, but...
Wait, what? I don't know.
Should I just tell you
Give
guys?
us a hint.
Yeah.
Cursed means Christmas. And
Christmas loot.
And
Presents.
Loot can mean a couple of things. It can mean loot just like in the English word. So like presents, bounty.
Yeah.
Or it could mean like a branch or a plant sprout. So it would mean like Christmas branch, Christmas sprout, or someone born on Christmas.
Oh, cute.
Isn't that sweet?
Wow, that's great.
That's so good.
Now there's another boring theory given by historians.
Whatever, I don't even care.
The word Castile means castle. So it could just mean somebody who lives near a castle. But like, ew. Please.
So near a castle, not in a castle.
Near. Yeah.
It's nothing. Let's go with the Christmas theory.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense in terms of like regional names. Because like my last name, Larsen, it's like a regional, like son of Lars, and then the spelling is Norwegian.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, but it's kind of boring.
It's
It's way not as fun as
I want to
Christmas
be
sprout.
Christmas sprout.
I think we can just go with that because some people, it's such an old name that there's not 100% way to know. So do whatever you want.
And
with
who's to say that people didn't derive different meanings at the time?
Yeah, historians.
Yeah.
Someone's on my team.
Yeah. Great. Christmas sprout.
Yeah.
Our old little Christmas sprout.
Oh, it's cute. Yeah, that's nice.
When Willem was born, the province of Zeeland had been part of the Netherlands for a long time. And in 1870, the village of St. Philip's Land was on an island. But in 1884, when Willem was 14, that actually became no longer true. The island that St. Philip's Land was on became reattached to the mainland via a brand new dam that was constructed called the Slack Dam. And that's really the only reason I brought that fact up is just to say Slack Dam. Despite their sick new dam, things in Zeeland weren't especially prosperous for the common man in the 19th century, more specifically the farm laborer. Zeeland's soil was mostly this like clay soil, which took twice as much effort as other soils to grow stuff. So the farmers in the northern Netherlands were cranking out grains and other fun crops really fast and really cheap. And in an increasingly industrialized world, this spelled disaster for clay soil farmers of the south. So farmers started cutting costs by cutting farm laborers, and thus there was a spike in Dutch immigration to the U.S., which reached its peak around the year 1880.
Oh, wow.
Interestingly, Willem's family did move, but not to America right away. They moved around the year 1880 to the city of Rotterdam, so not far to the north. I don't know if it was this reason, like troubles with farm labor. Willem's father's profession, and Willem's father is also named Willem. His profession, which is my next Kathleen coded fact, is that Willem's father was a plant guy, and he was a gardener.
Oh, okay.
And
so Christmas sprout is like really spot on.
It's really spot on.
Okay.
When Willem and his family move up to Rotterdam, he continues the trade as gardener up there.
What kind of gardening?
I don't know. And we'll get into that in a second about how much I don't know.
Okay.
I imagine a lot of these records were difficult to read.
Boy, were they. So Willem, when he's growing up in the 1880s and early 1890s, he's coming into his laboring era. So your dad told me that his grandfather, Willem's son, which is William Frederick, as you know, we'll talk about him later. He told your dad that Willem Peter worked as a gardener for the Queen in Holland.
Interesting.
I can't substantiate this. I did try to dig and figure that out.
Yeah.
But it's tough because records in the Netherlands are annoyingly written in Dutch and I don't speak that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're in like the old timey cursive, which when it's in English, I can usually make heads or tails of. But when I'm like, that could be a word, but I don't know Dutch. I'm on a genealogy Discord that I love very much. And I did put like one of the records in there and asked like the Dutch speakers to help me with it. But I always feel bad being like, can you also read these next 10 records for me?
Yeah.
So I did my best. What I can substantiate is that Willem's father was a gardener, both in St. Philip's Land and in Rotterdam. That is all I can substantiate. I tried to look up where the Dutch monarchy was living, and Rotterdam would not have been their main city, but they might have had like a townhouse or a palace there back in the days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a little summer home or something.
Yeah. So I don't know, and I can't substantiate it. What I can say is that the proclivity to exaggerate what you did in the homeland to your children is a common thing to do. But I don't want to, you know, I'm not calling anyone a liar. All I'm saying is these are all the facts on the table.
It's part of the mythology.
It's part of the mythology.
About the mythology a lot in terms of like ancestry being kind of more creative.
Yeah.
Right. It's a narrative.
It's a narrative.
It's a narrative.
And narrative is very important.
And I can't prove one way or the other. So he could have been a gardener for the Queen.
And that's a harmless, if it's a lie, it's a harmless lie.
Yeah.
Compared to like, I was the Queen, or I was related. Like I was the Queen's best boy.
Queen Willem.
I was the Queen's best boy. What I can offer as evidence is a picture from your father's collection of Willem Peter Kesteloos. I'm pretty sure this is him in Holland. I'd have to double check with your dad to show evidence that not only did Willem's father do gardening, Willem did gardening, is him as a young man holding a tree branch.
Wow. Yeah, there he is. It is quite literally a young man with a nice hat.
Yeah, it's a nice hat.
Holding up a tree branch. And this is an interesting photo too, because I feel like at this time with like the long exposure photography, you don't normally get smiles, but he is smiling. Mm-hmm. He looks really happy and really proud. And it's some kind of fruit tree. There is a lot of fruit on this branch. He's got his what are those called?
Which one? Shoes?
These
pants?
Things?
Suspenders?
He's got his suspenders on. He looks proud.
There is like, you can kind of tell there's something in the posture that's like very upright, like the chest is puffed a little bit.
Yeah, it's prideful.
It's like, look at me and my upside down tree branch.
And he's got a nice little smile on.
Sweet. That's a very sweet.
That's a nice pic.
Yeah.
I also like that this is like clearly taken inside on a backdrop that is painted to look like grass.
I did not notice that.
Oh my God, you're right.
So it's like their version of a green screen. So he brought a tree branch to the photo studio.
Yeah, and it also looks like it's maybe kind of an old tree branch because the leaves look a little sad.
So he found a special branch like a week ago, and he said, "This is the branch I'm going to use for my photo session next week."
But it's like covered in peaches or something. I don't know.
That's so cool.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice picture.
It's a nice picture.
So, you know, I don't have proof of what he was really doing. But what I do know is that he loved branches. And
that is one thing we can
Christmas
say
branch,
for sure.
baby.
Christmas branch.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas sprout.
Yeah.
So anyway, if Willem had a job with the Queen, it's a little harder to guess why he would have left for America, because most Dutch immigrants were leaving because it was hard to get jobs as laborers. So, I mean, it's still, gardening is laborious. So
maybe he got fired.
Oh, scandal.
Maybe she saw that picture and then she was like,
taking work out of work.
No.
I also sort of wonder if like this story passed down could be that Willem's father got a job as the Queen's gardener and wouldn't necessarily mean that he found a job and would need to make his own way. So in April of 1893, at 23 years old, Willem gets on a boat and he heads to America.
wow.
As young.
That's really young.
But for the time, not so young.
So he heads to America. Specifically, he heads for New Jersey, which
Hey, Jersey's nice.
If you're trying,
I like Jersey.
if you're trying
Yeah.
to start a happy future, is it in New Jersey?
Do it in Jersey. There's nice people there.
An
Wow, big
unbelievable-
Jersey got to you guys.
Okay, New York.
There's an unbelievable amount of Jersey slander that just like sneaks in on pretty much every episode. I
It's
feel.
honestly kind of sad. It's a nice state.
I think it's.
Have you had
pretty.
their tomatoes? They're good.
From this point on, Willem actually begins to go by William, the Americanized version of his name. So from this point on, I'll just call him William. So labor and a bright fiscal future were probably the reasons that William came to the States. But it doesn't take long before his next goal becomes marital bliss, because his future wife, Nellie Speets, is also in New Jersey.
Nellie
Yeah.
Speets?
Speets.
Oh,
Speets.
Speets.
Another great name.
Yeah.
A good name. Those two get married in June 1894, so barely a year after he arrives.
Mm.
Wow.
Nellie and her family are also migrants from Holland. They come in 1886 and settle in New Jersey for whatever reason. And I can tell you,
So rude.
It really is.
but can I tell you the third sweet thing that I learned for this story? And this isn't so much a Kathleen coded fact as it is a friendship coded fact.
Whoa. Friend fact.
Fun fact.
When she was 6, Nellie, your second great grandmother, boarded a ship in Amsterdam with her mother and her older brother to make their way across the Atlantic to their new life in America. And that ship was named Schiedam.
Cute.
No, not just cute.
Whoa. Okay.
Big.
3 years earlier, in 1883, my third great grandparents boarded the exact same ship in Antwerp.
Really?
That's so cool.
That's so cool, Karyn.
So they took the same exact ship, just 3 years
Wow.
apart.
Oh, that's a
Wow.
good friend fact.
I think that's crazy.
That's so cool.
That's really cool.
And of course, like the Schiedam carried tons and tons of families from Europe to their new life in America. But like,
yeah, but we can just pretend that it's just these
It's
two.
just you guys.
that's kismet. We
Yeah.
were meant to meet.
I think so.
So anyway, Nellie grew up in America. So depending on her local community, she may have been pretty well acclimated to life in the States by the time William gets there. But the two get married and they have their first child, Susan, in 1896. And then your great-grandfather, William Jr., in 1898. Here's a picture of Nellie, William, and a baby. I don't know which baby. I think your dad
Yeah.
probably told me because this is
It's
from
a prop baby.
from his collection, but I didn't write it down because I'm a good
Oh,
researcher.
the way they're holding the baby is so cute.
I know. It's like they're hoisting them up. I mean, yeah. This is a really nice photo.
It's really nice.
And actually, I can see the familial resemblance. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like in the baby especially, but also in, what'd you say her name was? Nellie?
Nellie.
Yeah, in Nellie, I can kind of see my grandma's face a
Yeah.
little bit. But yeah, I mean, they prize that baby.
Yeah. So like
yeah, the baby's like on their shoulders.
Yeah.
my deduction would be that that's Susan, because if there's
Mm.
only one baby in the picture, like
Yeah.
that's probably the only baby they had at the time, unless they
Or-
chose
So
favorites.
it was
Yeah.
Susan Susan.
Yes.
Okay.
We talk a lot about photos being lovely and we talk about the smiling thing because in so many old photos you kind of expect like a stoicism.
Yeah.
And I while they're not smiling, there is like a lot of life in this picture and the exposure and the shading is just like gorgeous.
It's really nice.
It's really pretty.
But also, Nellie kind of has like a Mona Lisa smile going
Yeah,
on.
you're
Like
right.
there is like a whisper of a smile there.
Mhm.
It's just like a nice aura.
yeah.
All right. What was William doing in New Jersey anyway?
What the
I'm
heck
glad you
was
asked.
he
Was he
doing?
growing tomatoes?
William was carrying on his family's plant legacy,
With tomatoes?
working at a florist shop in
Oh,
Rutherford, New
That's
Jersey.
even better.
And according to the census data in 1900, 1910, and 1920, he continues to be a florist specifically.
That's lovely.
Nice.
Isn't that nice? He's not just any florist, in
Mhm.
my opinion, and which is my next fact,
Number 4?
my Kathleen coded fact. The man was an artiste.
Oh.
And we will go into detail about this soon. But this was never more apparent than in the 1930s when he acquires his own business called the Kesteloos Hardy Gardens, which was located in Middletown, New York. So yes, that's right. William and Nellie finally made the right decision to get out of New Jersey, and they moved to Middletown, New York, which is near the Catskill Mountains.
If you're listening to this on your pod player, you should go find the short to be TikTok video or Instagram reel where Kathleen and I roll our eyes at each other because you hate Jersey so much.
It's funny because I really don't actually have a grudge against New Jersey.
We don't.
Yeah.
But I live for a bit.
Yeah, for a bit. It's got to go on.
Would you like to see a picture of Kesteloos Hardy Gardens?
Absolutely.
There it is.
Wow.
Oh, lovely. Gosh, that's cute.
That's really beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Gosh, I would live in that house.
for sure.
For sure.
There might be a non-zero chance that that was their house plus the florist shop.
It is such a beautiful, like, northeastern cottage.
Yeah.
Like, it's so classic looking.
Yeah, like I know exactly this place. Like
Yeah.
if looking at this, I feel like I am there.
I feel like I can, like, smell it, and also I can feel what the floors feel like.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This building is no longer here.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think there is, from like newspapers, he was putting out ads with the address. So it's easily found out. So we can
Time
figure
for a
that
road
out.
trip.
The reason that I say that William is a flower artiste is because it's during this stage of life that he goes to a lot of flower shows and he sets up plant exhibits at town events. So, for example, at the Orange County Fair, 1933, William arranged over 3,000 rocks and 75 different varieties of desert plants around a bronze statue of a girl with fireplace bellows and blowing a real fire. It was called the creation of light. And he also included a surrounding pool of water with tropical fish. And some of the plants that he included were from Tasmania, Peru, Manchuria, and Japan, and some domestic. But at the event, he said it would not include bullfrogs if he could help it, as bullfrogs eat fish and he doesn't like them. And apparently, he used to call bullfrogs hitchhikers because of their ability to travel long distances.
Oh my gosh.
Wow,
that's so cool.
That's so cool.
And then at the end of this exhibit at the 1933 fair, he announced that he was already in preparations for next year, and he had 5 potted bird of paradise trees exactly for the occasion.
Oh, I love a bird of paradise.
Wow.
And 1933 was his 8th season at the fair already. So he was, he was already like of the town. And he also did like a rock arrangement at the local library. And so he was, is that fun?
So Kathleen coded.
Yes.
Doing a rock arrangement, 3,000 rocks and arranging them. That's so Kathleen
I actually
coded.
think that when I saw this news article was the moment I decided that this was the story I was doing.
I do love rock.
We love rocks.
Yeah. I got a lot of rocks in my house.
We love a rock.
And doing a rock arrangement, are you kidding me?
That's incredible.
He also would donate his plants to the local flower contest so that the awards for the winners of the contest, they would get like his plants. And one year he brought a 3-foot tall spruce as the prize.
Which is like kind of a Christmas sprout.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's all full circle. Everything is connected. So this time of his life, like in the 30s, I would say is probably like the peak of his like success as a florist. Unfortunately, in 1938, William passes away at the age of 68. So do we want to do math on the leap year?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
1938, he was born in 1870 and he was 68.
So 17.
Really?
Yeah.
He was 17?
Yeah. If you like
the leap year.
Because every year is 4 years and blah, 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 blah.
Wow, you did that math so
17.
fast.
That's crazy, Kim.
If we had a math pod, I would be the expert.
God, I would hate to be a part of that
could
podcast.
never be
Like,
like
I can't imagine anything less fun.
William passes away at the age of 68 in 1938. We don't know of what, but his obituary says that it was an illness that lasted 5 weeks. And Nellie, his now widow, receives his entire estate equaling $10,700, which in today's money is around $227,000.
Oh.
And I think it's nice to think about how William sailed off into the unknown as a young single man to find a better future. And by the time he passed, he had his family, his own business, his passion for plants, and also a sizable amount of money compared to what he came to this country with. So
yeah, what a legacy.
And he was only 17 years old.
And he was only
17.
Crazy. So Nellie spends the rest of her time first living with her youngest son Leon, and then with her daughter Anne and her husband Jerome Simon, which I only mention because I have one final crazy story. And it's not a sweet story, it has nothing to do with Kathleen, but it is extremely random. Anne, William and Nellie's youngest daughter, is married to the Orange County Welfare Commissioner. And one night in 1958, while they were all asleep in the house, Nellie, Anne, and Jerome, a shooter peppered the house and car in the driveway with 13 bullets. No one was hurt, and they found out later that it was this guy who Jerome had testified against in a trial because he was the welfare commissioner. And the shooter had 5 kids that he wouldn't pay child support for. And the judge said, I'm going to say that you do have to do that. And so he went and shot Jerome's house for testifying against him, and then called him after he shot the house and whispered in the phone, "Are you scared now, Jerome?"
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I'm scared.
That's wild.
Crazy. Again, no one was hurt. Nellie lives a
goodness.
few more years after that and passes in 1964 at 88 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
But what a wild story.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So that's the origin of the Kesteloos family in America. And I think you'll agree that we've already seen some pretty great Kathleen-coded moments, but it's now time to move to the next generation of Kesteloos, which is actually not too far removed from you as we're talking about your great-grandparents.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, your great-grandfather, who was William Frederick Kesteloos, Frederick is the name of Nellie's father. He was born in Garfield, New Jersey in 1898. And he was sort of William III, as we talked about. His grandfather was also named Willem. So even though he was born William and not Willem, I think it still counts.
Mm-hmm.
William spends most of his childhood in Middletown, New York with his family. And I read an article that actually said when he graduated high school, he was the president of his class.
Wow.
So I think he did all right in Middletown, to be fair. But then it's college time, and William doesn't end up following Pops by taking over the family plant business. He actually goes to the Rochester School of Optometry in New York, a school that only existed between the years of 1902 and 1928.
Why?
Wow.
Why? 26 years?
Yeah.
Was there something wrong with it?
No, but we're going to talk just a little bit about the history of optometry very briefly.
Okay, cool.
Sweet.
This school claims to be the first chartered school for optometry in the world.
Okay.
And just to make sure everyone is on the same page, optometry as a profession, when we define it as examining eyes and vision, that's been around forever. But like the idea of like prescribing lenses and such isn't very old. It's a pretty recent like profession.
Mm-hmm.
Columbia University actually becomes the first university to give college level classes in optometry in the year 1910. And the Rochester School of Optometry was founded in 1902, but they're not college level classes. They're like charter, like almost like trade, like a trade school.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like 1910 when it finally becomes like college level in some places. That's only 10 years before William goes to college for it. Up until the year 1919, the Rochester School of Optometry only required 2 years of high school to attend their program. So they didn't even require like a high school graduation certificate. In 1919, they required a high school diploma. And then in 1926, that's after William left, they finally partnered with the University of Rochester. And in 1928, they closed. And so I think,
So they like kind of were absorbed
by the University of Rochester.
Okay. Got it.
Yes. So William,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I believe William started going, it was either 1918 or 1919, maybe even 1920. So in that range. So right around the time that they kind of leveled up and started requiring a high school diploma.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until 1930 that the state of New York required a bachelor's degree to practice optometry. And not every state required it either. So optometry has been a pretty recent profession. William graduates the RSO in 1922. And by the sounds of it, he gets a job right away at one of the most prominent lens companies in Virginia.
Lens crafters?
It's Lens Crafters. No.
Our next sponsor.
GL Hall Optical.
Ah, yes. Okay.
GL Hall Optical actually begins in Norfolk, Virginia. But by the time William packs his bags and moves to Virginia, GL Hall has expanded.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that William Jr. here, William III, didn't take after Pops by doing plants, but he did take after Pops by moving to a strange place that he had no connection to all by himself. So in a way, there's still something to be seen there. Before I get into William's life in Virginia, I'm going to blather on a bit about GL Hall Optical, and it is important, I promise. And you already know why it's important, I think. Yes. Okay.
I don't.
You're going to be surprised.
Woohoo!
GL Hall Optical was founded by George Leslie Hall, who actually came from a pretty poor family, originally in Danville, Virginia, which I actually didn't know about the Danville, Virginia stuff until your dad showed me a picture of their old farm in Danville. And like, he talked about how they were, like a pretty poor family out there. It was really hard to get to, very isolated. And he went to visit it one time, or the place that it was.
I think last year.
Yeah, which was a cool story. He said it was almost impossible to get to.
Yeah. He said it was really hard to find.
Wow.
Yeah.
But George, being the industrious man that he is, he did move to Norfolk, Virginia. And I did ask your dad if he knew why. And at first he didn't know, but then he messaged me later and was like, I think he thinks he remembers his family talking about it being for like opportunity reasons. Like he moved to Norfolk, which, makes sense. He certainly found that opportunity. Now, before GL Hall Optical was called GL Hall Optical, it was called Tucker Hall and Trailer, and it was founded in 1901 when George was 24 years old. At first, I thought that Tucker Hall and Trailer, like he left it to start his own company, but it wasn't until last night, literally at midnight, when I was up way too late trying to finish up stuff.
Karyn.
I was just looking for pictures.
Yeah.
And I found random, it was like an optometry journal from like 1910 or something. And they were listing businesses. And it said GL Hall Optical and it said GL Hall President. And then it named, I can't remember their full names, but Tucker and Trailer were named as Vice President and Treasurer. So I think it just became GL Hall Optical because George was the president. And it just started out with a different name. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Also, the other two men, Tucker and Trailer, one of them, I can't remember which one, was a mental and nervous specialist for some reason. And somehow that qualified him to open up an optical company.
Wow.
Mental. That's interesting. I mean, the nervous...
Yeah, nervous system.
Implies like nervous system.
Yeah,
so maybe that...
nerve, something.
Yeah, maybe. But I think
Mental
he
is
was,
interesting.
his specialty was like treating nervousness and like
You think
hysteria
so?
and stuff. Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Your poor nerves. I'm pretty sure.
Through the eyes?
Yes, that's where you receive it.
That's where all the anxiety comes in, is through the eye.
That's why we wear glasses to help block it.
Sometimes
Yep.
it does not work for me.
Imagine how much worse it would be.
I know.
Although it's true that these boys founded the firm for corrective lenses, they also founded it for a different type of lens, the camera lens. Yes, that's right.
Ooh.
At Tucker Hall and Trailer, you can get your eyes checked and get photographs done because I guess lenses are lenses.
Wow.
And I
That's
think I
so
have
cool.
here is an ad from that time talking about eyeglass lenses and Kodak lenses. So I don't know if you want to read some or all of
Yeah,
it.
I'll read it. Glasses. Really big print.
Really big.
Of all kinds, quickly and accurately duplicated. Lists, prescriptions filled, and everything optical and photographic furnished. Developing and printing for amateurs. Photo supplies of all kinds. Films to fit any Kodak or camera. GL Hall Optical Company, Inc. Norfolk, Richmond, Roanoke. Best for the site. 211 East Broad Street. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, special discount to students. That's nice.
Yeah, that's nice that they do a student discount.
Yeah.
This is from 1911.
This is also
Cool.
I do like this ad. There's a really cool graphic of an eye.
yeah.
It's a
We should get that
good-
tattooed.
Honestly.
Honestly?
Honestly.
Honestly?
Honestly.
should you
It's
get-
also like a scary eye, kind of.
We know now that GL Hall Optical does not just do glasses. They do photo lenses.
A lens is a lens.
A lens is a lens. But they also sort of made something of a name for themselves over the years in photography.
Mhm.
So in fact, due to the U.S. Naval Base being so close to Norfolk, the original location, they became known for their prints of Navy life. And there's more than a few kept in the Library of Congress. Okay, this is going to be a little hard to see. So he took a lot of different kinds of photos, but he was very known for the panoramic. Like he did a lot of panoramics.
No.
So it's going to be a little hard to see. So you can see if you can zoom in at all. But this is one of my favorite pictures, I think.
Wow. That is so cool.
It's in the year 1918, just before World War I ended. And it is a Liberty Loan Parade where back in the war, the encouragement was like, buy Liberty loans so you can give money to the military, to our boys, and then you'll get them refunded like after the war or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a parade to get people to buy those. And I just think it's a really like cool snapshot of the time.
It's so cool.
This is an insane photograph.
This is
I mean, I guess
wild.
it's a couple put together, right? Or is it one big panorama and then
They folded
it's
it.
like printed? Maybe like the paper, they didn't have like a large enough thing to print it
yeah.
on,
That's
so maybe
probably
it's
more
multiple.
How would you
This is
do a panorama
crazy.
back then?
I didn't look it up, but I'll send you the link to the Library of Congress page where they have a lot of these panoramas that he did. He did a lot of like group shots of like naval groups, of battleships.
Cool.
And there's some like regular shots too, but these shots of U.S. Navy life, if you look up like books about the U.S. Navy at the time of World War I, you're probably going to find one of the GL optical pictures. There was also, if you guys know about the Saturday Evening Post, it was a very like popular magazine. There was an article featuring the U.S. Navy, and all of the pictures were taken by G.L. Hall.
Wow.
So, or I don't know if it was taken by G.L. Hall himself, but
Right.
it was a G.L. Hall optical photo.
Right.
So this is the
Cool.
this is the company that your great grandfather William Kesteloos joins in 1922. But he doesn't go to Norfolk.
Mhm.
He goes to the Richmond branch. So when G.L. Hall Optical expands, George's younger brother Hobart manages a location in Richmond, and William goes to work with him. So G.L. Hall is already a family affair business. The Halls have a sister, and it's Minnie Apt Hall, and she happens to do another very Kathleen coded thing.
Here
Next
we go.
sweet fact.
That's number 5, I think.
At G.L. Hall Optical, she hand paints the photos so that they're colored photos.
Oh my
I just learned this
God.
fact from my dad.
I did too.
and it's so crazy.
That's
She
so wild.
was so talented.
For background, well into the 1940s, the only way to have a colored photograph was to have someone hand paint a black and white photograph. And that was Apt's job at G.L. Hall. And I think it's really impressive because you literally would have to like hand paint these little photos one by one if you wanted a color picture.
Wild.
And as we know, Kathleen is a talented painter. And so it's no surprise that you come by these genes naturally. So you get rocks from your second great grandfather. And you get painting from, actually, I gave away a spoiler because we're not spoiler. But the next thing that we will talk about is that Minnie Apt Hall does this in Richmond. She hand paints the photographs in Richmond. So I'm pretty sure William found this a pleasant surprise because he marries her. William gets to Richmond in 1922, and by 1924, William and Apt's engagement is announced. And also, her full name was Minnie Apt Hall. And I asked her dad why she went by Apt and like what Apt was. He has no idea.
Yeah. Okay. I've always wondered about that too, because it's such an interesting name. And I didn't realize that wasn't her first name.
So Minnie Apt is the middle name.
Yeah, APT. And she went by Apt. And yeah, he didn't know. I've never seen it anywhere else in genealogy. I didn't go that far back in the Hall line just because, number one, it's a little difficult. The name Hall is really, really generic. And they were also very like poor family from the middle of Virginia. It's a little hard to do. So it's possible that it comes from a family name that I'm not aware of at the minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really interesting name. So the wedding was in June 1925. It was very beautiful. App's family was all there in Richmond, and William's mother and siblings came down from New York. And because old newspapers love describing all the details of like society weddings, we know exactly what Apt looked like. So would someone want to read this like paragraph I have in italics? Would you like to read it?
The bride who was given in marriage by her father wore a gown of ivory satin with the overdress of Chantilly lace, embroidered with pearls and made bouffant style.
Ooh.
Her veil of tulle was arranged with sprays of orange blossoms. That is so lovely. And her flowers were a bouquet of lilies of the valley and bride roses.
Cool. Wow. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It sounds so lovely.
Wow.
Wouldn't it be great if I had a picture?
You sneak.
Your dad did.
Really?
There she is.
Oh, I think I've seen this photo before.
Oh, this photo is so cool.
Wow. I mean, it is as described.
It is as described for sure.
It's beautiful.
And so my dad's older sister, Julie, her middle name is actually Hall, and this looks like Julie to me.
I see your dad in there for sure.
I literally wrote, "This looks like your dad's face."
Really?
His
I see
mouth
it in the
especially.
mouth. Yeah.
I think if you guys had seen a picture of my Aunt Julie, this looks just like her to me. That's really
beautiful?
lovely.
It's a beautiful picture.
So at this point, they get married. And as you know, 5 years after they get married, they have a daughter, your grandmother, Suzanne. And she's the only child that they have together. But at this point, it's a little difficult for me to continue telling the story because this is a part of the story that's very familiar to your family. And I can't think of anything worse than a family historian very confidently telling you about your experience. So I think like I'll tie up what I have and then I'm going to open the floor for you to talk about like what you remember of your great grandparents and of your grandma Suzanne.
Yeah.
So as an outsider to tie up what I know, they had your grandmother. She's the only child they have. They live as this family of 3 in Richmond, Virginia, in their house in Westover Hills, the house that you grew up in, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And William continues to work as an optometrist with GL Hall Optical, which is like a Richmond staple for a while. They have a storefront on East Broad and then on East Grace. I have a picture of it on East Broad. That's what it looked like. It's a beautiful like storefront with like the like brass lettering over top, and it has dual entrances. So like and then
is this an eyeball?
It's a display window. Oh, is it? I didn't even know.
I think it might be a big eyeball.
So GL Hall Optical does close its doors in like the 60s, I believe. And that's kind of the end of what like an outsider would be able to tell you. So I do want to kind of open the floor up to you, Kathleen.
I didn't really know much about my great grandparents other than just like random little stories that my dad would tell me. My grandma was their only child, my grandma Suzanne. She grew up in Richmond and she became an artist, a textile artist and an illustrator. My understanding was that my great grandfather, William, was not thrilled about her being an artist, which is interesting considering that they both of her parents had like creative pastimes. Like my great grandfather, William, was also a very accomplished woodworker.
I've seen the pieces.
They're
beautiful.
And which is funny because like growing up, that was what I knew about him. I didn't know that he was an optometrist until more recently.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that he was a professional woodworker just because like growing up in their house, like all his wood shop was there and he like my dad inherited all of his woodworking tools. My dad is a very good woodworker as well. So that was what I knew of him. And then with my great grandmother being like a photographic painter, but yeah, then my grandma became a full-time visual artist. And I think I'm wondering if maybe because like both of my great grandparents' families came from like humbler beginnings and then had some success themselves. I wonder if he was just worried about her kind of like going into a trade that would be more difficult.
Well, it's also interesting that his father was the florist, right?
The artist florist.
The artist florist.
Yeah. My grandma, she ended up going to the Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida, which is where she met my grandfather, who was an oil painter, and he was a professor there. They got married. They had 3 kids, including my dad, who was the middle in between 2 girls, my aunts, Julie and Caitlin, who are also all artists in their own way. And then my grandparents they just did art for their whole life. My grandfather, Bob, he was in the Navy and he was in World War II, and it like deeply traumatized him, I think, and changed the way that he thought about the United States as a whole, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, from what I've heard, the relationship between my great grandpa William and my grandpa Bob, it was a little tense. I think because William thought that Bob was also like kind of unserious because he was an oil painter. My dad was he was very worried about them both being at their wedding when he married my mom.
Oh.
Because they hadn't seen each other in a long time.
Yeah.
And they had this like historically kind of tense relationship. But then when they both got there, apparently my great grandpa William was like thrilled by the open bar. And he and my grandpa like shared a few drinks and they had a good time. They were cordial and it was fine.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Brought them back
Cocktail can bring
together.
everybody together.
Yeah. The stories that I heard about William growing up were about his like kind of tense relationship with my grandma and my grandpa.
Perfect.
But also like my dad grew up coming to Richmond to like stay with them in the summertime. And then when my dad graduated, he also went to Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota because he got free tuition there because my grandpa taught there. He moved to Richmond and lived with my great grandparents after college. And my grandpa like taught him about woodworking. And my dad would also tell me about how nervous my great grandmother was, apt, because I was a very anxious child. And I think in a way of like trying to comfort me, he would tell me like, you get it from me. And then I got it from my mom, Suzanne, and she got it from apt. So like basically as a reassurance, like you come by this naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad told me about how apt would do what she would fall out, which she would just pass out. And apparently she would just be thinking about the things that were making her anxious and she would faint. And this was just a thing. And she called it falling out.
Well, let's get through our resonances here. I think we should start with Kim.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, we've got 5? I think it was 5 sweet Kathleen facts, 5 or 6, which is just so nice. You had sort of alluded when you were talking about this episode before recording that this was going to be very sweet and emotional. I did get a little bit emotional when we started talking about just like sweet Kathleen facts, just because you are very sweet and this is all very
Whatever.
sweet. But it's interesting to me how like I've heard this skips a generation thing to traumas and tendencies and whatnot, but like there are through lines and there is such a clear connection in my mind to you and your dad.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me, there's not a lot of skipping there. And I mean that in the absolute best way, because like when I first met you, it did not take long before you were inviting me to your home to meet your parents. they were having me over all the time. I think I had a sleepover at their house once
Yeah.
in my adulthood, in my late 20s.
I think more than once you've slept over at their house.
Yeah.
Because you used to live in a different city.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like there's so much that I feel is similar between the two of you. And then when you talk about your grandmother and now talking about your, the Williams before, like there's just so much that feels consistent. And maybe that's because we know you and because we are like imparting a little bit of our own knowledge on this story. But it's just so nice. And I think in the same way that I felt with you, Karyn, when we talked about certain members of your family, like there's just such a thrill with knowing what happened in order to get here, to get you guys to meet. It's just really nice.
Yeah.
It's just so sweet. you know? And I think being an artist comes with a lot of pain at times in different ways, but it also
I don't
comes,
know what you're talking
it
about.
also comes with a tremendous amount of expression and emotion and color. And I think that's something that you are extremely good at sharing with your friends. And that is a nice thing. Yeah.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah. That's sweet.
I think we'll do my resonance and then we'll do Kathleen's.
Oh no. Oh no.
But my resonance isn't actually a resonance. It's actually a thing your dad said to me as I interviewed him.
Oh God.
Here we go.
Yeah. Hold for it. This isn't my fault. This is your dad's
I'm like
fault.
already
God.
tearing up.
It's okay. We're all fine.
So I asked your dad if he had any one special memory of Apt or William. And I think the world is a richer place for knowing his answer. So I felt like this had to go in somewhere. So your dad told me that when he was really young and he was visiting your grandparents over the summer like he did.
His grandparents.
His grandparents, yes. Yeah. I made this mistake while talking to your dad all the time. Grandparents, great-grandparents. Anyway, when he was super young, like a child, his favorite memory of his grandmother was that she would hold his hand while they would eat dinner together. Just like through the whole meal. If that's not the cutest thing you've ever heard.
Sweet.
And that was his favorite memory.
Oh.
And then
So sweet.
it's the memory of his grandfather that really got me though. So he was a little bit older. He was visiting. He said that he would do a lot of yard work for them and help them out. So he was out in the yard helping them, like weeding, whatever. And William just came out of the house to talk with him. I don't think he even remembers what it was about. But then William told your dad in this moment, he said that if he ever had a son, he would want him to be like your dad. And that was just so freaking sweet.
It's really sweet.
And also like the way that you describe like some of the relationships of like William, maybe he was like not as emotive.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that he like loved your dad so much and shared such a special bond with your dad that like that's the thing that's like remembered between the two of them.
Yeah. My dad really loved them a lot. They were very, very important to him. I think like growing up, I feel like my dad's side of the family was really important to me in like a very specific way. All being artists, it did feel like they carried like a very specific legacy to me. And also as a child, I felt so like uncomfortable in the world. Like at school, art class was like the only place where I felt like I could just be myself. And I was always like drawing and stuff. And art has always been like a really important part of my life. And because of that, you know, I think maybe it's like a chicken or the egg kind of situation. Like my grandma, she died when I was 9 years old, but like growing up in the same house that she grew up in and like having her in my life, having my dad in my life, my grandpa, Bob in my life, my memories of her were just like so warm. Whenever we would go to see her in Florida, like we were always painting or like, I don't know, laughing. It feels silly. Like it feels silly to say that, but there's just always a safety that's been in this idea of like creativity, and that's kind of like what she has always represented to me. This like warmth and creativity, and just like it feels like home to me. And so it's just really cool to see kind of like where this person who is a very important like pillar personally, like where she came from, and then by extension where my dad came from, I think it's like hard to overstate how important that was to me as a kid before having like real access to, you know, like mental health things that like make things easier for us now. This is where I might start to cry. Having a community that feels so loving is so important to me. And that is part of the reason why, like when we first became friends, like why introducing you to my parents was so important. And like likewise with you, like the time that we've spent with my family feels like another thing that I can't overstate, like how important that is to me. Feeling that sense of like safety and community and just like care. The fact that you're doing this podcast at all and like telling these stories feels like such an act of love. And I know that that's what this is for you. And it's just like, I don't know, I'm like really proud of you.
Shut up.
I'm really proud of you. And I'm really proud of our friendship. And like, I don't know, that you guys are like family to me.
Yeah. So in a way, we're telling all of our family story because we are family.
Yeah, we came over on the same freaking shit.
Yeah,
we did.
And we birthed 4 animals.
I love you guys.
I love you too.
Before we wrap this up, I got you something.
Stop.
I was going to wrap it nicely, but like everything else in my life, it's a little chaotic.
You didn't know?
No, I didn't know. I'm very, very, very excited about this.
Oh my God.
It's a glasses case from GL Hall Optical.
Oh,
That is so cool.
this is like the coolest thing that anyone has ever given to me. I'm not kidding.
Beautiful. It's got gold lettering. I think it is leather, but it's like, I don't know how you describe
It looks like wood grain.
texture. Yeah, it looks like wood grain for sure, which if he was a woodworker.
Damn it, you did get me.
And it has the original lens that is so wild. Also, it's teeny tiny.
It's
Wait.
just teeny
It
tiny.
looks so small, especially relative to y'all's glasses.
Anyway, Kathleen, that's your present from me to you.
Ugh.
And this has been one of the most special episodes of all time.
Truly the best.
I love and I kiss both of you a lot.
I love and I kiss you.
I love and I kiss you both. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
Kathleen.
joining.
Thanks for joining me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, it's Karyn from the future. We sent this episode to Kathleen's dad to check through in case I made any mistakes, and lo and behold, I certainly did. When Kathleen mentions her grandparents meeting at Ringling, they actually were both students at the time of meeting. Her grandpa didn't become an instructor until later. And secondly, I mentioned that Kathleen's dad's favorite memory of his grandmother was that they used to hold hands at the dinner table when he was a child. Turns out it was actually later when his grandma was in her 80s when she wanted to hold hands with him. He was a young adult. But he did say that Grandma Apt was always one for hugs when he was a little boy, and she'd rub his back when he couldn't go to sleep, which I think is extremely sweet. Once again, a huge thank you to Kathleen and her family for letting me tell their story, especially to her dad, Mr. Larsen. It was such an honor to get to tell your stories. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you in the next one. Okay, bye.
Low Ancestry is written and produced by Karyn Harding and co-hosted by me, Kim McMasters, with original music and audio engineering by Benjamin Malk. Original cover art was designed by Christina Swanson of Swansong Creative. Resources pertaining to today's episode and a link to the official bibliography can be found in our show notes or at our website, lowancestry.com. All research was conducted by Karyn, but she's been known to be wrong on occasion. So if you'd like to connect with Karyn or even send her a correction, you can email us at connect@lowancestry.com. or find us on Instagram at Low Ancestry. Genealogy is, after all, a community effort. Thank you so much for listening, and if you like what you hear, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to hear from you, and frankly, we really need this.